All right, y'all. So number one wants us to graph this equation by plotting points. So I got 8y plus 4x equals -8. So I'm going to work this by hand, and then I'll come back and actually plot my points, okay? So y'all, the trick on this one is to solve it for y. Once you solve it for y, you'll be able to figure out your points and get those y values, okay? So to solve this for y, I'm going to have to move the 4x to the other side by subtracting. All right, so that's going to give me my 8y. 4x, -4x are going to cancel on the left side. And then y'all remember, these are not like terms. So I'm just going to put my x and then my number. So I'm going to make that a -4x minus 8. Now my last step is to make this 8y a 1y. So I'm going to divide everybody by 8. All right, y'all, now I'm just going to reduce everything. So 8 divided by 8 makes that a 1y. -4/8. All we can do is reduce that fraction down. So -4/8 will reduce to a -1/2 x. And then minus my 8 divided by 8 gives me a 1. So y'all, at this point, I can now get me a x and y table. And I need to find at least 2 points on this. So I'm going to use a 0 for x. And then I'm going to use a 2 for my x. All right, y'all. So first, let me put in my 0. So -1/2 times 0 equals 0. So that's going to give me 0 minus 1, which will give me a -1. So for me, when x is 0, y is -1. And then I'm going to put in a 2. So y equals -1/2 times 2 minus 1. You know, the reason I picked a 2 is because of that fraction. Because remember, this 2 I can now cancel with the 2 on the bottom. And that basically turns into a 1. Since I'm dividing that 2 by 2, makes that a 1. So now I got -1 times 1, which is -1, minus my 1. And y'all, -1 minus 1 gives me -2. But y'all remember, at this point, you could graph this on your calculator if you want to. You can go to y equals, graph that on the calculator, and use the table to get your values, okay? All right, so I got 2 points. I'm going to go into MathLab now and draw my graph. Since this is a line, I'll be using the line tool, okay? So y'all, here we go. Let's go graph this one. So I'm going to click to enlarge my graphs. I'm going to choose my line tool. And then I'm going to plot my 2 points. I had 0, -1. So 0 on the x, go down to -1. Plot that point. And then my second point was 2, -2. So I'm going to go right 2 and then down 2. All right, y'all. So once you've got that graph plotted on there, you're just going to hit save and then go to your next question. All right, so number 2 wants me to graph y equals x squared plus 3. All right, so I'm going to go work that by hand, and then I'll come back and graph it. So y'all, when you got x squared graphs, let me show you on this one. So let me go back. if you click to enlarge the graph, you notice that that 3-point quadratic tool has 3 points on it. So since this is the x squared graph, we will have to find 3 points because this graph is going to make a parabola shape, okay? So anytime you see the x squareds, that's going to alert you to use this tool, okay? Now it's already solved for y. Hey, y'all, for me, on these kind of graphs, I always use a -1, 0, and a 1. These graphs are symmetric, so whatever I get for -1, I'll get when I do the 1, okay? So they're going to be the same answers. So let's put in a -1 first. So we got y equals -1 squared plus 3. Now, if you do this on the calculator, you better put that -1 in parentheses like I got it. Okay? If you don't put this in parentheses on the calculator, it'll give you the wrong answer. Because -1 times -1 is a +1 plus 3, and then 1 plus 3 gives me 4. So when x is -1, y equals 4. So let me put a 0 in for my x. That'll give me y equals 0 squared plus 3. We know 0 squared is 0, so that's going to give you a 0 plus 3, and that equals 3. So when x is 0, y is 3. Then we come in and put in a 1 for the x. So that'll equal y equals 1 squared plus 3. All right, y'all, 1 squared to be 1 times 1, which is 1. So that's going to give me 1 plus 3, and then 1 plus 3 equals 4. So when you got these x squared graphs, notice the x1 and the 1 both gave me the same y values on that, okay? All right, so I've got my 3 points. I'm now going to go to Math Lab and graph this, okay? So you're going to go to Math Lab. So I use this where it says click to enlarge graph. I'm going to click on that. I'm going to go to the second line and I'm going to get the 3-point quadratic tool. So when you got the x squared graphs, they're always going to use this tool. And then we just plot our 3 points. So I had -1, 4. So go left to -1 and up to 4. I had 0, 3. So go to 0 on the x-axis and up 3. And then my last point was 1, 4. So go right 1 and up 4. Once you plot the third point, it makes a nice U-shaped parabola. And y'all, at that point, you're going to save that and go to the next problem. So the first 3 were graphs. So look at this one. We got an absolute value. Y equals the absolute value of x plus 4. So y'all, let me show you real quick. I'm going to click on the enlarge graph so you can see the tool I'll use. So for absolute value, you're going to use this V-shaped tool on the top right. It says absolute value tool. And notice, it needs 2 points for it. But y'all, it's really picky because you got to get that V point right there, okay? So let's go play with that. And then I'll show you how to get the points you need. All right, so like I said, this one will be a 2-point absolute value tool. Now, y'all, of these 3 problems, this one is picky. No matter what on this problem, the first point has to have a y value of 0. Okay. So on absolute value.
Hey, on the test, do we have to be write it out like this on the test too as well?
Oh no, on the test you can use the calculator for all these if you want to.
Oh yeah, okay.
So yeah, I'm good either way you do it. Okay.
So on the test we'll have access to the calculator on here.
Do what now?
So on the test we'll have access to the calculator on our on here, like when we take the test online.
Um. So do you got a TI-84 calculator?
I can get one.
Well, let me show you this. Do you got an iPhone?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna show you my iPhone right here.
Okay.
Right here, I got what is called a Calculate 84 app.
Calculate at 84. Okay.
Calculate 84. Now watch, when I hit that app, it brings up the same calculator as my TI-84.
Oh, okay, okay. I can do that then.
It's awesome too. I went ahead and paid the $29 for the lifetime thing of it instead of paying $184 for a graphing calculator.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I've
Now
used
it'll
it the
let
whole
you
time.
use it for free. But yeah, if you want to upgrade it and do like you're doing there, that's perfect.
Oh, it has
But,
everything there the same too.
Yeah.
but look at that, it looks exactly like my calculator. So that's what I would do if you don't have an actual calculator. I'll
Okay.
just download that app.
Okay.
So what was the app? Is Calculator 84? Is that what you said?
Yeah, it sort of looks like a blue screen with a white calculator, and then it's got sort of like a little line going through it. But it's that one right there.
Okay.
Yeah, if I'm out and about, that's the one I'm using instead of trying to take that big calculator with me everywhere, so.
I had the T83 and was like, I was looking at the differences of it, and then when he told me about that app, I downloaded it, and I'm not
Well,
spending
I'll tell you what,
$84 on a calculator.
between an 83 and that app, I'd use that app. Because there's a few things the 83 can't do that we need it to do in this class. So you did good getting that app, because that thing will do everything I do. All righty, y'all. So let me get back to this one. So here's the thing. On the absolute value graphs like this, the first point we graph must have a y value of 0. Because what that is, if it's got a y value 0, that's giving us that vertex point, and that has to be the first thing you plot. So the question is, what number could you put in for this x to make this equal 0?
-4.
-4. So y'all, this has to be the first point I plot is -4, 0, okay? Now the second point, you can pick any point you want to. So a lot of times I'll use a 0 because 0 is easy to plug into everything. So if I plug that 0 in, I'll have y equals absolute value of 0 plus 4. So working on the inside, you would add 0 plus 4 and get 4. Then the absolute value of 4, we all a good thing about absolute value. When it comes out, it's always positive. So the absolute value of 4 is a 4. So I've got my 2 points. And then I'll show y'all this one on the calculator, okay? Because absolute value is tricky to find on it. So before I graph on MathLab, let me hit my calculator up.
When you get done with that, can you show how you put that in the calculator though? Because I see on the calculator it has the y equal thing. So you can show how you put that in the calculator to help a little bit.
All right, so you got to have it solved for y equals. So on the top left, you see y equals on that calculator. You're going to click that. Now, y'all, absolute value does not show up on the screen here. You got to go find it. So usually when you got other things you need, you hit this math button on the left side. And then I'm going to arrow right until the NUM column is highlighted for number. But look at the very first option you got there. On number 1, it says ABS. Guess what? That's absolute value. So since one's highlighted, I'm going to hit enter. And that's going to bring the absolute value bars onto my screen here, okay? And then I just got to put in the X plus 4. Now, y'all, when I do X's, I use the big long button right by the alpha green button. I click that for my X's. And then I had an X plus 4. Then if you want to arrow out, it looks exactly like your problem now. Y equals absolute value of X plus 4. Now, if you wanted the calculator to find your points for this problem, you'll hit the blue second button and the graph button, and that'll pull up a table. All right, so remember, I'm looking for the one that has a Y value of 0. So if you go up, there's the Y value of 0 when X is -4. Well, that's the number y'all gave me a while ago, right? -4 was the number we plugged in to make it 0. So no matter which way you get this point, you gotta plot -4, 0 first on that graph, okay? Now let's look at what the graph will look like when we're done. I'm gonna hit the graph button. It's gonna be a V-shaped graph on the left side, touching at that -4 there, okay? So y'all, we're gonna go graph this now on our math lab. So I'm going to click to enlarge my graph. I'm going to choose the V-shaped absolute value tool. I'm going to come down here and plot that -4, 0 first. So your first point basically is going to be touching that x-axis somewhere, okay? And y'all, my second point was 0, 4. So coming over here to 0, I'm just going to go up 4. Once you plot the second point, it's going to mirror that graph and make the V for us, okay? And at that point, you just hit save on that, okay? So on the calculator, you can go to Y equals and put any of these problems in there, okay? All right, y'all, then we would hit next. So this one wants to know if this correspondence is a function. So let me go over this again. To be a function, each of my domain values can have one and only one range value. So remember, you're focused on the domain, which is your x's basically. So does each of these domains only have one range value? If they do, then that's a function. If they don't, then it's not a function. Aaron, you were shaking your head yes on that one. Good job. Because y'all, if you look over here at this domain, -3 only points to one range value of 2. Down here, 3. The 3 only points to one range value, 2. And then the 8 only points to one range value. So since my domains each only have one Y value or range value, that would be yes. And you got to watch out because we're focusing on the domain. See, you won't B, but y'all look at D. It says because each element of the range has one element in the domain. Well, that's wrong. If you start with the range here, that range of 2, that thing's got 3 different domain values, right? So you know it has to be B on that one because of the domain having only one element in the range, okay? And that just goes back to the thing we said that the domain or the x's can't have a choice, okay? All right, y'all, so you hit next. All right, y'all, so let me write this one down real quick. So they're giving us f of x equals 5x squared minus 5x. They want me to find f of 0. So f of 0. I'm just going to write it down because I know what they're asking. F of -1 and f of 2. All right, so remember, they're just introducing us to function notation at this point. So to give us the function over here, so our expression is the 5x squared minus 5x. This notation tells me first problem, I'm going to put a 0 in for the x's, see what I get. Second time, I'll put a -1 in for the x's, see what I get, and then we'll put in a 2. So y'all going to start with f of 0. Now remember, this is just notation telling me what I'm putting in for my x's. I don't do nothing with that f of 0, okay? The problem will be this part when I put in my zeros. So I'm going to have my 5. I'm going to put a 0 in for the x and square that. Minus 5. And then I'm going to put a 0 in for the x. So f of 0 just wanted me to put a 0 in for both of those x's. All right, y'all, so let's work this. 0 squared is 0, so you got to start with the exponent. So 0 squared is 0. 0 times 5 is a big 0. Minus 5 times 0, which is 0. And y'all, 0 minus 0 gives me a 0. So f of 0 equals 0. Then we're going to do f of -1. So that'll equal this expression, putting in a -1 for both of those x's. So you're going to have 5 times -1 squared minus 5 times -1. Now I'll do this one step by step because you got to start with this exponent. So you got to bring down to 5. -1 squared. Well, y'all, negative times a negative is going to make that a +1. And then I'm just bringing everything else down. So all I did on that step was squared that -1. Now, y'all remember, any number you squared will be positive, okay? All right, so now let's multiply. 5 times 1 is 5. But y'all look at this. You're subtracting a 5 times a -1, which means you're subtracting a -5, and all them negatives are going to make this a +5. All right, y'all, then at that point, 5 plus 5 gives us a 10. Now, y'all, I'm not going to lie. You can do this on the calculator, right? Let's go to the calculator real quick. If I want to hit second mode and quit that screen. So I had 5 times parentheses, -1, close parentheses, square that, minus 5 times parentheses, -1. All right, y'all, watch this. When you hit enter, you get 10 just like we got, okay? All right, y'all, next one I got is f of 2. So that'll equal 5 times 2 squared minus 5 times 2. All right, so once again, I'm going to start with this exponent. So I'm going to bring down that 5. That's going to multiply times 2 squared, which is what, 4? and I'm just bringing everything else down. All right, so now I'm going to do my multiplying. So this 5 times 4 is going to give me 20. Minus 5 times 2, which is 10. Oh, y'all look at that. 20 minus 10 gives me 18 again. But remember, any of these at this point can be punched into your calculator, hit enter, and get your answer, okay? All right, y'all. So on that one, you actually got to put in all three of these answers. F of 0, I got 0. And then F of -1, I got 10. F of 2, I got 10. So once you put them three in, you're going to hit next. All right, so let me make this one bigger. But the question, is that a function? And I will say this, on this one, you're using the vertical line test. So y'all, here's the thing. For this to be a function, a vertical line cannot intersect that graph more than once. So if you was to draw a vertical line down through this graph, if it intersects it more than once, it's not a function. Well, y'all, I see a lot of vertical lines on this graph. And woo, they're intersecting it on the top of the graph and the bottom. So that means these x's are having a choice. Right? When x is 4 over here, you got a negative something there, and then a negative value down here. So is that a function or not? No, because vertical lines will intersect it more than once, okay? So y'all, let me show you something on that real quick. So that graph was sort of curvy. And all I'm doing is I'm shooting a vertical line down it. And if you notice, this one intersected up top and bottom with that vertical line. So that was a no on that one, okay? Now this one ain't on the test. I just wanted you to see which one was a function. So do y'all see this graph here? No matter what, if I shoot vertical lines down this graph, these vertical lines are only intersecting at once everywhere. So a graph like this would be, yes, a function, okay? Remember, vertical line hits it more than once, not a function. Vertical lines only intersect at once everywhere, it is definitely a function, okay? All right, y'all, so we said no on that, then we go next. All right, y'all, so what are we doing? We're finding the domain on, what's this, number 7? Well, and they did give you a fraction on this, you realize. So this is what? G of x equals 1 over 9 minus 8x. And they're using that set builder notation here, so we just got to find out what number we got to exclude. Now, y'all remember, if this wasn't a fraction, we put all real numbers, right? But it is a fraction. So when you got a fraction, remember, the bottom of this denominator cannot equal 0. Because if that equals 0, 1 divided by 0 is undefined, okay? So we cannot divide by 0. So what we're going to do, we're going to take the 9 minus 8x, and we actually set it equal to 0 to solve and find what values make that true. whatever answer we get here, we're going to kick it out of our domain, okay? So y'all, to solve this, what y'all doing? Moving that 9 over? So I'm going to move the 9 over by subtracting. So those 9s will cancel. I'm going to get a negative 8x on the left side equal to the negative 9. All right, so remember, we're still solving that for 1x here, so we're going to divide both sides by negative 8 now. Now, I will say this, negative divided by negative makes that a positive x over here. No, I don't think we can do anything with that 9 over 8, but guess what? That negative divided by negative will make that a positive 9 over 8. So, since I got a 9 over 8 when I solved the bottom of this fraction for that x, my domain will be all x's such that x is a real number and x cannot equal 9 over 8. Now, y'all, this problem, it's got to be the one with the not equals on it, okay? Let me show you what they're doing on this problem. They're trying to throw you a curveball by messing with these answers. Look, they got a greater than or equal. Well, we're not doing that one. They got not equal to 1, not equal to 0. But then on D, they got what we need. X is a real number, and X cannot equal that 9/8. Okay. All right, so we'll do a domain a lot in this class this year. So just remember the domain. At this point, you're only concerned with the denominator on a fraction, okay? All right, y'all, so let me write this. So f of x is going to be negative 16x plus 14. G of x is going to equal x squared plus 16. They want me to find f of 10 divided by g of 10. And then notice on the answer blank, it says type an integer or simplified fraction. That means they don't want no decimals on this, okay? It's either going to give me a number or a fraction for this one. So y'all, this was the 2.4 stuff. We're doing function algebra, basically. So this f of 10 is being divided by g of 10. So that's going to be a fraction. So on top, we put f of 10. F of 10 will be the f function, putting a 10 in for that x. Okay, so f of 10, I'm going to put a 10 in for x. So that'll give me negative 16 times 10 plus 14. And then we're dividing by g of 10. Well, here's my g function. So they want me to put a 10 in for that x. So that'll give me 10 squared plus 16. So y'all look what I got. F of 10 divided by G10 is my f function divided by my g function. All right, y'all, so now I'm just going to work the top and bottom using order of operations. So on top, you're going to multiply before you add. So negative 16 times 10 is a negative 160 plus my 14. On the bottom, I got a 10 squared Well, 10 squared is 100, so that's going to give me 100 plus 16. All right, y'all, so at that point, we need to figure out what that negative 160 plus 14 equals. That gives me a negative 146. On the bottom, 100 plus 16 gives me 116. So y'all, looks like we gotta reduce this one down. Now, if you don't want to sit and keep dividing out numbers, let me show you a trick to simplify that. We got a calculator. No, if you can't reduce a fraction, punch it on the calculator. Negative 146 divided by 116. Now, at first it's going to give you a decimal. But if you hit math and enter twice, it'll turn a decimal back into a fraction. And y'all, it looks like that reduced to a negative 73 over 58. So basically, they divided the top and bottom by 2 on that, okay? Okay, Tricia, that's cool. Anytime I see you, I'll just let you back in, okay? All righty, y'all, so that was what, number 8. So here, I would use the little fraction tool on MathLab and then put in my negative 73 and then arrow down and put in my 58, okay? All right, y'all, so then we hit next on this. All right, y'all, so let me write this. F of x on this one equals negative 3x plus 5. G of x equals x squared minus 4. We're going to find G minus f of x. So if you notice, they didn't give me a number this time for the x. So basically, when they don't give you a number here for the x, all you can basically do to this stuff is sort of simplify it. You're not going to get a single answer out of this, okay? And since they didn't give me a number, you really can't use that calculator. So y'all, here we go. This is going to be the g function minus the f function. So g minus f of x will equal my g minus my f. So make sure you got the order right. They want the g first minus the f. So the g is x squared minus 4. And you want to put these in parentheses when you first start, okay? Now, f will go here. That's a negative 3x plus 5. So to simplify these, you got to drop these parentheses off. Now, there's nothing in front of the first parentheses, so I can drop these parentheses and bring everything out. Now, subtraction is tricky because you got to do one thing on subtraction. On subtraction, you got to distribute that subtraction to everything inside those parentheses. So what's going to happen when I subtract a negative 3x? Well, negative times a negative will make that a positive 3x. And then this negative is getting distributed times that 5. So a negative times a positive 5 makes that a negative 5. Y'all, the biggest mistake I get on this, people put 3x here, but then they forget to distribute that, and they'll put a plus 5 here. That one sign will kill this problem, okay? All right, y'all, so I got like terms on here. I got a -4 and a -5. Those are like terms. So let me bring down my x squared. I'm going to bring down my plus 3x next. So I'm just putting them in descending order. And then you got a -4 and a -5. That's going to give me what? A negative 4 and 5 is -9. Now that's another place where I get a big mistake. But remember, when you add two negatives, they stay negative, okay? Like signs only matter when you're doing multiplying and dividing. Okay. So you lose $4, you lose $5, you lost $9, okay? All right, y'all, so this is what MathLab wants on that answer. So notice, since they didn't give me a number like they did up here on these tens, this one you cannot reduce it further than that, okay? All right, y'all, so we would go put that in. So I would do my X and then come down here and do the little blue box to the right for the exponent of 2. Arrow right so you can come back down, put in a plus 3x. And then it had what? A -9. And y'all, once you plug that in, you're going to hit next. So notice, this one is subtraction, but it giving me a number on it. So let me see what I got. F of x equals x squared minus 6. G of x equals 10 minus x. They want me to find f minus g of 9. So y'all, once I show you how to set this one up, this one can be knocked out on the calculator really quick also. I'll probably just do it by hand, but yeah, you can knock this out on the calculator once you get it set up. So they are giving me a number this time. So since they're giving me a number, I need to come out with a single answer on this in number form, okay? All right, so we're doing subtraction again. So I got f minus g of 9 will equal my f minus my g. So I'm going to start them out in parentheses again. But now when I put my f in, I'm not going to put in x squared minus 6. I'm going to put in 9 squared minus 6. And then over here for my g, I'm going to put in a 10 minus 9. All right, y'all, at that point, you could put the right side right here in your calculator. Right here, put this in the calculator, and it'll spit out your answer quick, okay? All right, y'all, so I'm going to do it by hand real quick. 9 squared, that's 9 times 9. That's going to give you 81 minus 6. And there's only one thing to do over here, but 10 minus 9 gives me a 1. All right, y'all, so I can finish out this parentheses now. 81 minus 6 is 75 minus that 1 from the second parentheses. So if you did it on the calculator, hopefully you got a 74 out of that. Hey, y'all, so I got my single answer there. Nothing else I can do to that. So now I'm going to go put in my 74. And hit next. Now, y'all remember, I'm recording this, so I will send y'all the video after class, okay? So that y'all can sort of use that also. Oh, look here. This is a domain problem. So f of x equals 1 over x minus 9. G of x equals 9x to the third. Y'all notice they want the domain of the sum, difference, and product. Now this problem looks long, but y'all, we learned one thing off of these problems like this. The sum, the difference, and the product all have the same domain, okay? So if I can find the domain of the first one, I know what I'm putting on the other two, okay? Because remember, they always got the same domain. So let's go work it, and then we will come back and throw in our answers. Now, I will say this. There's fractions here, so you better not put B on any of these, okay? So no B answers on this question. So the sum is F plus G of X. That's going to equal your F equation plus your G equation. Well, F is 1 over X minus 9. And then the G is 9x to the third. Now, the reason we're not putting all real numbers on this one, y'all, we got a fraction sitting here. Are there any numbers that I can put in for that x that'll make that equal 0 under that 1? And that's a 9, right? Now, remember, if you want to, you can set x minus 9 equal to 0. But y'all listen, when you're doing a domain, the only thing you're concerned with are the denominators of a fraction, okay? And that's a denominator sitting there. And this cannot equal 0. So by setting it equal to 0, I can find the number that made that happen. And y'all watch this. All I gotta do here is add 9 to both sides. And I get x is a 9. So that means this domain will be x such that x is a real number. And x cannot equal a positive 9. Now, y'all won't work all these others out, but I'm just going to show you if you were subtracting f minus g of x, you'll still have the 1 over x minus 9 minus the 9x to the third. Well, subtraction, you only got the one fraction you're worried about again. And that's going to give you the same answer of 9. So this domain will be the same as the start. And if you were multiplying these, you'd have your f times your g. Well, guess what? You still only got the one fraction you're worried about. So this x can't be 9. So adding, subtracting, and multiplying will all have this domain right here. So those three answers on number 11 got to be identical, y'all. So how are we going to put that in? We're going to come back over here to number 11. And y'all, they got everything. But what you got to do right here in the box is you got to hit X, come down here and grab this not equal, and then put in your 9. And then come out here and do the same thing. X, come down here on the bar, get the not equals, and put in 9. And then on the last one, put in the x, cannot equals 9. All three of these must be identical, okay? So y'all, that's the trick. Just look at that fraction, what number you got to kick out, and just start kicking it out of all three of them domains, okay? All right, then we would hit next. All right, also, f of x equals 9x minus 7. G of x equals 7x minus 28. They want the domain of f divided by g. All right, y'all, after this one, we're going to do our break, okay? I didn't even notice it was already like 10:50 something over here. So let's work this one real quick. So, f divided by g is going to equal my f equation on top, which is 9x minus 7, over my g equation, which is 7x minus 28. Now, this is a domain problem. And the only part of this fraction that cannot equal 0 is that denominator. So guess what? I'm going to set the denominator equal to 0. And then we're going to solve this. So y'all on this one, let's see, we'll add our 28 first. So you're going to get the 7x. That's going to equal 0 and 28, which is 28. Divide both sides by 7 because we need to make that a 1x. So 7 divided by 7 makes that a 1x. And then y'all, 28 divided by 7 gives me a 4. So my domain would be x such that x is a real number. And x cannot equal that positive 4. Notice, I didn't even touch the top of that fraction. The top of a fraction can be 0. It's the denominator that you got to worry about, okay? All right, so we said x cannot equal 4 on that, so let's go see what they want us to put in. Also, basically the same as the last one. You're going to click A and then put x, come down here and get the not equals, and then the 4, okay? So y'all notice, on 11 and 12, you're not clicking all real numbers on those, okay? All right, y'all, so, oh, y'all, we're going to do a break real quick. So let me pause this just a second. I'm going to stop my share real quick. And then, all right, y'all, so number 13. So y'all on 13, we're given f of x equals 2x plus 1. G of x equals x to the third. They want us to find f compose g of -1. So this is the composition of functions they're giving us. Let me bring that back up. So when they're giving us a number like this problem is like finding f of g of -1. So if I wanted to write it in function notation, which means we got to do the g of -1 first. Once we get to g of -1, we'll put that into the f equation, okay? So first, find g of -1. So g of -1, I'm going to put a -1 in for that x. So that's going to give me -1 to the third power. So -1 times -1 is 1 times -1 gives me a -1. So since g of -1 was -1, we now put that -1 into the f equation. So that means I'm finding f of -1. So the f equation is 2 times x, so that'll be 2 times -1 plus 1. So we just got to solve that now. So -1 times 2 is -2 plus 1. And y'all, -2 plus 1 is -1. Whew, I guess my problem like them -1s on it, didn't it? But y'all, that's it. You first find the G. Once you got the G answer, put it into the F, okay? All right, so we'll go to Math Lab and put in our -1 and then go to next. All righty, y'all. So let me try to draw that. All right, so I think I got it drawn. So this one wants to know if this is 1 to 1. So to be 1 to 1, we got to do the horizontal line test. And that means to be 1 to 1, a horizontal line cannot intersect it more than once. So the horizontal line cannot intersect the graph more than once. If it intersects it more than once, we're going to put no on this. So y'all, let's draw some horizontal lines. If I go straight across with a horizontal line right there, it's going to hit it there, and it hits it there. And you can do that anywhere on this graph, top or bottom. Those horizontal lines are going to intersect it more than once. So this would be no, not 1 to 1. Okay. So remember, a function, the x's can only have one y value. To be 1 to 1, the y values can only have one x value, okay? So since that hits twice, it's violating that rule. So we would go to Math Lab. And then that's just a yes or no. So we're going to put no on that, okay?
So the equation is just to throw you off.
Yeah, they're just showing what they did to actually get that graph. So don't worry about that equation. You're just looking at that graph and doing your horizontal line test to it, okay? And y'all, I'm not going to lie. Every time I've seen number 14, it's looked like this graph. Okay? So if your graph looks like mine, there's going to be a big no on that, okay? So this one actually says if it's 1-to-1, find its inverse. So let me write this down. F of x equals 9 over x plus 8. Well, y'all, let me tell you this. On number 15, no matter what, you better put yes on the 1-to-1 part. Every number 15 will have an inverse. So you gotta put yes, it is 1-to-1, okay? Now we'll go solve it to get the inverse. So this is one of the sort of tricky things we learned in this chapter. To find the inverse of this, the first thing I did, I had to replace the f of x with a y. So you replace the f of x with a y. And then remember what I did next? I had to switch the x and the y. So switch the y with an x. And then switch the x with the y. So you have to switch the x and the y at this point. Now, you're solving it for the y. So y'all, I'm going to show y'all a trick on this one. To solve this for the y, it can't be in the bottom of a fraction. So to move this up, you're going to multiply both sides by y plus 8. Now, the reason you multiplied both sides by y plus 8, because look on the right side. I can now cancel that y plus 8 out. So those are going to cancel out, leaving me a y plus 8 times the x equal to a 9. Now, y'all, two things you can do here. But me, I'm not going to distribute that x because I'm solving for the y here. So since this x is being multiplied, I'm going to come in and divide both sides by the x. Because now look, these x's cancel, leaving the y plus 8 equals the 9 over x. And I don't even need the parentheses no more because all that's left over here is that y plus 8. And y'all look at that. I got one more move on this one. So let me bring that up here. To get this y by itself, I'm going to subtract 8 from both sides. So those 8s will cancel, leaving the y by itself. These are not like terms, so I'm just going to leave that as a 9 over x minus 8. So we've got it solved. And then the last step, you change this y and write it as inverse function notation. So f negative 1 of x means this is the inverse function, and the inverse function equals 9 divided by x minus 8. So y'all, this right here is what we're going to put in Math Lab. Now y'all listen. The only thing they're going to change on y'all's is that 9 and that 8. Okay, so y'all's is going to work out just like mine did. until you get that final answer, okay? But it'll be something like mine. It's going to be a fraction. Now, depending on the test generator, you could get the exact problem. Or they might change up that 9 and 8 on you, okay? All right, y'all, so we would go put that in. Now, they didn't got the f -1 of x sitting there. So all we got to do is put in the fraction, which had a 9 divided by the x, arrow right, and put in a -8. All right, so we've got it looking good now. We hit next. Oh, look here. Now we're getting into the systems of equations. So 5x plus 2y equals 32. 2x plus 5y equals 38. All righty. So let me get that on the page. I will show you this both ways, hand and calculator, okay? So to solve a system of equations, we got to eliminate one of these variables. And it looks like they're about the same. I got a 5 and a 2 on the x's and a 2 and a 5 on the y's. So what I need to do is make it to where one of these variables will cancel when I add them. So I got to make one negative and one positive, and then they've got to have a number that I can use. So, hell, pick out a variable, y'all. You want me to eliminate the x or the y?
X.
All right, so I'm going to eliminate the x. So here's what we got to figure out. What's the smallest number that 2 and 5 are both factors of?
10.
10, right? So what I need to do is make one of these a positive 10 and one of these a negative 10. So if I want to make the first row have a positive 10x, I'm going to multiply this whole row by a 2. Now, y'all, let me ask y'all this. If I want to make the x's on the second row equal a negative 10x, what are you multiplying this row by?
-5.
-5. So we got to change both rows in order to cancel something. So y'all, let's multiply the whole first row by 5. I'm going to get a 10x plus a 4y, and then 32 times 2 is what? 64. All right, now let's distribute the -5 in the second equation. -5 times 2 gives me -10x. -5 times 5 gives me -25y. And then -5 times 38 is what, a negative 190. And then draw me a line under that. Because now I'm going to add these together and get rid of those x's. So y'all, 10x's, -10x, those cancel. 4 and -25 is going to give you -21y. 64 and a -190. Well, let's see what that is.
-126.
Negative what? 126. There y'all. I'm down to one variable. I can now solve this for the y. So at this point, I'm going to solve for the y. And I'm going to divide both sides by -21. All right, y'all. So -21 over -21 makes that a 1y there. Oh, this is going to be a positive something. What's
6.
that? 6. Good job. So now I know the y value is 6. So now I'm going to get the x value by back substituting. because we know y is 6, we can plug it into either one of these first two equations and solve for the x. So I'm just going to use that first one, 5x plus 2y, but y we know is 6 now. That's going to equal 32. So I'm just plugging it into my original equation here. Now you could use these two equations, but these numbers are a lot bigger. So I always go back to my original, okay? All right, y'all, so let's see. Bring down to 5x plus 2 times 6 is what, 12? That's going to equal 32. So now I'm going to subtract 12 from both sides. That'll get my x's by themselves. So let's see, that's going to be what, 5x? Those cancel. 32 minus 12 is 20. And y'all guess what? Divide by 5 and we'll get our second answer. So that gives me a 1x, and then 20 divided by 5 is 4. Now, y'all, here's the trick on this one. When you put it in MATLAB, it's got to be an ordered pair. You got to have the x coordinate first, which is the 4, and then the y coordinate, which is the 6. Now, I'll go through the steps on the calculator to solve this. So, y'all, I'm going to share my screen for my calculator. And let me get everything cleared off here. So on the calculator, to put it in, we're going to use this matrix, the blue matrix above the x-1 key. So to go, you're going to start out by hitting the second button and the x-1 button. Okay, so they're on the left side, the blue button and then the x-1 button. That's going to bring up this names, math, and edit. Well, since we're putting in a matrix, we're going to go over to edit and hit enter. So the first thing we got to tell is how big is our matrix? Remember, that is how many rows by how many columns. Since we had two equations, we got 2 rows. And we got 3 columns. We got the x's, the y's, and the answers. So for number 16, it's going to be a 2 by 3 matrix. You're going to hit enter. And now all we're putting is the numbers in. So 5x, that would be a 5, enter. 2y, I would do 2, enter. And then that equaled 32, enter. The second row, I had 2 x's, so that'll be 2, enter. 5y, so that'll be 5, enter. And then 38, enter. So y'all, when you're putting them on the calculator, they got to be in the right order. That way, the first column was the x's, the second column is the y, and the third column there was the answers. All right, hit enter after every button. So now that my matrix is in there, I'm going to quit the screen by hitting second mode. So my matrix is in there. So now to make it find my answers, I'm going to hit second x-1 again. I'm going to arrow right and hit math. And then at math, I'm going to arrow down and get to RREF. So you want RREF highlighted and hit enter. It's going to bring the RREF on the screen. This is what reduces the matrix down to give me my answers. Well, y'all, now I got to go grab the matrix. So for the third time, you hit second x-1. Now look at number 1 has an A and it has my 2 by 3 matrix. So all I do is hit enter. So now the calculator will solve this matrix when I hit enter. And y'all look, on the right column, the 4 and the 6, those are the answers in alphabetical order. The x is 4, the y is 6. So the same exact answers we got doing this by hand, okay? And then y'all see me do this again on the next problem because my next problem is going to be a 3 by 4, okay? And y'all notice under this answer blank, it says type an ordered pair. So you gotta put this thing in parentheses and then do your 4, comma, 6, and close parentheses. So you gotta have parentheses for it to mark this one correct, okay? All right, y'all, that's in. We hit next. All right, y'all, so let me write this one down. I got 8x minus y plus z equals 49. 4x plus 2y minus 3z equals 23. And then x minus 3y plus 2z equals 10. Now this one, I always label these equations 1, 2, and 3. All right, so I'm going to ask y'all a question. Are y'all doing this by hand or by calculator when y'all are doing them?
Calculator.
All right, is anyone doing them by hand? So are y'all going to do them by calculator then? So I'm going to show y'all how to do this on the calculator then, okay?
Can you show where you wrote that out? I'm just having a hard time seeing what the question is, so I have to look and see where you wrote it out.
You mean on my pad here?
Yeah. Yep, that's what I need.
Mhm. Now, since we're doing it on calculator, I'm going to actually write my steps over here. So first I got to put my numbers into the matrix. So putting numbers into the matrix. So for that, I start out hitting second, x negative 1, because that takes me to the matrix stuff. Once I hit second x negative 1, I'm going to arrow right and go to edit. Once I'm on edit, I hit enter. So that's going to bring up the screen with all the little boxes on it. First, we got to tell it, how big is this matrix? Well, y'all, this one has 1, 2, 3 rows. So that's going to be a 3 by how many columns we got? We got 1 column, 2 columns, 3 columns, 4 columns. So we'll do a 3 by 4. When we do that, it's going to put 12 boxes out there. And all we're going to do is put in the numbers. We're going to put in an 8, a negative 1, a 1, and a 49. Then we'll come down and put the numbers for the second equation. 4, 2, negative 3, 23. Then the last equation, I got a 1, negative 3, 2, and 10. Once I've hit enter on all these numbers, I'm going to hit second mode. And what that does is it quits the screen. But now this calculator has all these numbers stored in it, okay? So now I want to go and get the math stuff. So we're going to hit second, x negative 1 for the matrix stuff again. But this time we're going to arrow right and get to the math column. On math, we're going to arrow down and get R, R, E, and then hit enter. Once I do that on the front of my calculator screen, it's now going to say RREF. So now we go back and get the matrix. So for the third time, we're going to hit second, x negative 1 to go to the matrix stuff. And y'all always hit enter on this point because I always put number 1 as my matrix I'm doing. So hit enter for the matrix. At that point, it's going to bring RREF and then your matrix A. So at this point, it should say this on the screen. Okay, so just hit enter. Once you hit enter, your answers will be on the right column, X, Y, and Z in order, okay? Alrighty, y'all, so let's go punch this on our calculator and see what we get. So I'm gonna clear everything off. All right, so second, x negative 1. We said we're going to arrow over to edit, hit enter. So this one we said was a 3 by 4. So we're going to go 3 enter, 4 enter. So you always got to hit enter after these numbers, okay? All right, y'all, so I had an 8, enter, negative 1, enter, 1, enter, 49, enter. Next row, I had a 4, enter, 2, enter, negative 3, enter, 23, enter. My last row, I had a 1, enter, negative 3, enter, 2, enter, and 10, enter. Once you hit enter, it has all your numbers up here on the screen. So what do we say? We're going to hit second mode and quit the screen. So second mode, we now quit that screen. So now we got to go get the RREF. So second, x negative 1, arrow right to math. And then at math, we're going to arrow down and get that RREF. So it's B on mine every time. I'm not sure if y'all's are B or not. If you got more stuff, it might be. And I think the phone apps are just like this one. So, all right. So RREF is highlighted. Hit enter. That brought it on the screen. Now we're going to hit second, x negative 1. So one's highlighted on mine with my 3 by 4 matrix. So I'm just going to hit enter. And on my screen, it now has RREFA. So y'all remember, I'm looking for the right column when I hit enter. So the right column means my answer. The 6 is my X. The negative 2 is my Y. And then the negative 1 is my Z. Y'all see how the first row, it has the 1 in the first position? Well, that means that was the X column. So that means X is that 6. And then you come down to the second equation. The 1 is in the Y spot. So that meant 1Y was negative 2. And then on the third row, you had the 1 in the Z position. So that meant Z was negative 1. All right, y'all. So let's go to MathLab. On that one, I think they usually have the parentheses already. So see, they got the parentheses. We just got to put in those 3 numbers. So 6, negative 2, and then negative 1. All right, y'all, got my 3 answers in. I'm going to hit next. All right, y'all, so what I got? Graph the inequality. 3x minus 2y less than or equal to a -4. So y'all, basically, this is what we did yesterday. So the trick on this question is solving it for the y, okay? So we're going to move the 3x over by subtracting 3x from both sides. So y'all, those 3x's canceled over there. I got my -2y is less than or equal. So these are not like terms. So always put my x's first. So I want to make that a -3x and then minus my 4. Now, we want that to be a positive 1y. So we're going to divide everybody by -2. And y'all, guess what? Anytime you divide by a negative, you got to reverse the inequality. So instead of less than and greater, this now becomes a greater than or equal. So reverse the inequality when dividing by a negative number. Now, you don't flip it when you divide by positive numbers, only when you divide by negatives. So those -2's cancel, making that a y greater than or equal. And y'all, these two negatives make that a positive 3/2 x. And then these two negatives make that a positive 2. So at that point, you're going to come in and make you an x and y table. Also, at that point, you could put this in y1, okay? Since you've now got it solved for the y, you can put that into y equals on your calculator. Now, if I'm going to pick two numbers, I'd probably pick a 0 and then a 2 to cancel the fraction. So if you put a 0 in, well, 3/2 times 0 is 0. So that gives me 0 plus 2, which equals 2. So when x is 0, y is 2. And then I'll come and put a 2 in for the x. So 3/2 times 2 plus 2. And y'all remember, I used a 2 because those will cancel, making a 1. So 3 times 1 is 3 plus 2. And y'all, 3 plus 2 is 5. All right, so I got my 2 points. I'm now able to go in Math Lab and graph this. But y'all remember, since I got equals, I want a solid line. Because of the equals part of that. Now, if it was just a greater than, if it didn't have the equals part, you would use dash line, okay? Now, greater than, I'm going to shade above. So you always look at your final equation. Since that's greater than, we're going to shade above. All right, y'all, so we're going to go graph that now. So I'm going to click to enlarge my graph. Now, notice, it is on a solid line by default. So go up here and choose the line tool. Plot your 2 points. I had 0, 2. So I'm at 0, go up 2. My second one was 2, 5. So go right 2 and up 5. So there's my line solid. Now to shade above it, I'm going to click on this paint can over here. And then I'm going to click above the line and let it shade it. At that point, I can save my graph, okay? All right, y'all. I think the next one will be doing that. Oh, but y'all, we did these yesterday. This is x less than a -4. Remember, the x equations make vertical lines. So y'all, let me write this. X less than 4. So y'all, really ain't no work I can do to this. The one thing you got to realize, if you was to make a table for this one, every x value has to be 4. It don't even give you a y variable up here. Okay, so you can pick any two numbers you want for the y value. It don't matter what two numbers you pick, as long as that x value is 4. So remember, when x's, they make vertical lines. Okay, so since I know every x value has to be 4, I'm going to go to MathLab and actually graph this. So I'm going to click the enlarge my graph. But y'all, the trick is, y'all see that that's a less than. That don't have an equals under it. So since it's a less than only, it's got to be a dash line. So you got to click the dash line over here. You see the paint can? To the right of the paint can is the solid line. Right under that is your dash line, okay? All right, so what I do, since it says x is less than 4, I'm going to go get my line tool now. I'm going to go to x-axis and go to 4. And then I'm just going to go up or down. So I'm just going to go up. But y'all, don't matter where you put your point at. It's got to make that vertical line though, okay? Now, less than, shading it left or right? Well, less than on the x-axis is on the left side of that line. So y'all, less than, you're going to shade left. If you got greater than, you're going to shade right. Okay? All right, y'all, so once I've got that, I'm going to hit save and next. All right, y'all, so let me write number 20 down real quick. So y is greater than or equal to x plus 4. Y is less than or equal to 2 minus x. So really on this one, you're just shading two graphs and you're going to look for where that double shaded area is, okay? Now, MathLab don't let us graph this one. They just got the final answers here. So we're going to have to make an X and Y table for each of these graphs. So I'll do the top one right here, and then that bottom one, I'll do right there. So there's no fractions. So all my X's I'm going to pick are 0s and 1s. All right, so let me do the top one first. So I'm going to put a 0 in for X. 0 plus 4 makes me a 4. And then I'm going to put a 1 in for the X. And then I get 1 plus 4, which is 5. So there's equals under this. So this one will be a solid line. And it's greater than, so it's going to shade above. All right, so in a second, we'll come over here and shade that. All right, the second equation, put a 0 in for the X. 2 minus 0 is 2. Then if I put a 1 in for the X, 2 minus 1 is 1. This one has equals, so it's going to be a solid line. But y'all, this one's less than, so it's going to shade below. All right, so my biggest number is 5, so let me just write this out about 5. All right, y'all, so I'm going to plot my first point, 0, 4. So 0 and then up 4. And then I had 1, 5. So right 1, up 5. So y'all, that line is sort of coming down through here. And we said it was going to shade above the line. So you're going to come in here and shade all this above that line. So now we're going to plot the second one. I got 0, 2. So 0, up 2. And then 1, 1. So right 1, up 1. That was a solid line. So I'm going to draw it solid. But y'all notice that one shaded below the line. So below the line is all this right here. So the answer is the double shaded section. This section is shaded above and it's shaded below that line. So I want to picture where they got the left side highlighted on that answer. So you're only picking the one where it's double shaded, okay? This one is single shaded, this one is single shaded, and this one don't have no shade. So y'all, when I go to that one, looks like D, right? Now, y'all, I'm not going to lie. Probably 95% of the time, it's the one shaded on the left side like this, okay? I've never in my personal life seen it be one of the other three. It's always the one shaded on the left. But I'm not going to guarantee that 100%. Because then Math Lab will throw me a curveball, okay?
I noticed that is this how it's set up for us for the quiz review?
Mhm.
So
Uh-huh.
where it says check answer down at the bottom.
Oh, y'all probably won't get that.
Okay.
It's doing that because I'm just previewing it in my modes. Let me get this one out of here. Let me go back.
I know this is just review, but I was just wondering how it did.
Yeah. Let me come in as a student and see what it does real quick. So it should be going back into I'm gonna go into MathLab student links. And then all assignments. And then review for test 1. All right, so to make y'all start it, are y'all seeing my screen now, MathLab? So this is what it's going to do to y'all. On the bottom, you just get the next option. Is it showing my number 1, y'all?
Yeah.
All right, let me go. Let me reshare.
Yeah, it's showing 1.
Okay. So see, as you go through, it is not giving y'all the option to check any answers.
Once you input an answer, will it show?
Oh, so let's try one we know I can work real quick. All right, so this is a function, right?
Mhm.
And it's because the domain has one range. So no, it's just going to say next.
So it's set up just like how you said the quiz would be.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So the reviews, remember the review on this now, y'all can do that as many times as you want, get whatever grade you want on it. Okay. So if you like getting hundreds on everything, it'll let you do the whole quiz over to get that 100. You can't do like homework and go in and pick one problem out and redo it.
Okay.
So to improve a quiz grade, you got to do the whole quiz. But y'all, here's the thing. What grade y'all want to make on my test? What's a good grade for you?
100.
Yeah.
So if you want 100, I would probably do the review until you can get close to that 100, okay? Do the review till you, I'd probably do it till I got 80 or 90 at least, you know, a good passing grade. Because you're always going to do better on the actual test anyway. And they're in the same exact order for those 20 questions. Actually, let me show you something. Let me go to my math lab here.
I also noticed
Um,
that on the review there wasn't anything about interval notation.
oh no, well, you'll see that in life in the future.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure because I understand how to do the math of it, but it's writing it out that throws me off. So I just wanted to make sure that that wasn't something I needed to.
No, no, no. We'll do that a whole lot more in these next few chapters. All right, so I'm just actually going to go to a test real quick. And I just want y'all to get a view of this test because y'all look, it's the same exact order. Are y'all seeing the test now?
No.
Y'all seeing my number one? See, it's the same one where we had to solve for
I don't
y.
see anything.
Oh,
No,
y'all
I
ain't
don't
see-
see it.
Okay, let me get back on Math Lab. Oh, I didn't share my screen. Maybe that'll help. Yeah, here's number one, just like we did. This is an actual test now.
Okay.
Number two was the x squared stuff. Same thing. Hell, I think that's actually the one I did with the +4. There's the absolute value, x minus 3. Y'all look, it's the same exact thing.
Okay.
I mean, and look, they didn't change that question. Let's just go through it. I want y'all to see some things that y'all can look at. Okay, that's still doing the functions. Okay, it's the same graph I had. So if it wasn't a function for me, guess what?
Function
It's
correct.
it's not going to be a function for y'all. It's the same exact graph. I'm wanting y'all to see that these graphs are usually the same on this thing. And I would pick the one right here that had the fraction with the not equals probably. All right, that's doing the function stuff. I'm going to go down and find these other graphs. But I mean, it's the same exact problem. F minus G. Here's the one. There's only one number you're excluding from this domain, and then do that to all three of those, okay? Well, hell, that's got a -1 just like I had a while ago. And they didn't even change the x to the third part. What they changed up on this one was the 2x plus 7. Mine was a little different on the f. But this got everything else is the same. Is this a 1-to-1? Well, it's the same exact picture, y'all. If we said no on mine, guess what? It's going to be no on yours because this one's failing the horizontal line test. And this one you're going to say yes. So notice it's the same problem. All they did was change that 3 and 6. And let me see, what number is this? Number 15. Yeah, mine had a 9 and an 8 instead of a 3 and a 6. But they're going to be worked, guess what? The same exact way. All right, there's the one with the 2 variables. There's the one with the 3 variables. So 18 will be one of those inequalities where you got to flip it, remember, because you got a -3 in front of the y. This one's x is greater than -2, and then y'all, the last one should be the system.
D.
And I'd probably pick D on that one. So that's why I really, really think if people do this review and get a decent score on the review, that test is going to be a piece of cake. And there's got to be 2 or 3 of them questions that y'all just look at and say, look, this is the same thing we've been reviewing. Bam, bam, bam. Especially on that function one and on that 1-to-1 one, okay?
Is it timed?
90 minutes. So it's like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
So it'll be plenty of time for y'all to roll through it. Especially if y'all are using your calculators on a lot of them bigger problems and stuff. It'll be pretty mellow going through that on those. So Monica, that should have showed you a little bit about that past homework.
It did, but I'm still not in Blackboard. I'm still trying to get, they still haven't got me connected, so.
So what's the issue, are they saying?
Well, they keep telling me they're gonna call me back, and they're
That you're what?
gonna call me back, so I'm gonna call them when we get off again.
All right, hang on a second. Hang on just a second. Let me go look at my Blackboard real quick.
Story of my life.
Let
That
me
was
go
the
look at
worst
something
thing,
here.
trying to get started this semester, and people, the right hand doesn't know what the left hand's doing.
That's what I hate a lot is they do that to us. Look, Monica, you're showing up in my Blackboard. The issue is it's not letting you in. So let me show you what I think you can do, okay? So I'm gonna quit this recording real quick. And